Hey everybody, so we are continuing our season previews for all 31 NHL teams, and today we are talking about the New York Rangers. Before we get into the video, I just quickly want to say if you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and follow along for all the hockey content this season. And if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button and give it a thumbs up. That really helps out the channel a lot and is greatly appreciated. So, the New York Rangers, where to even begin with this team? This was a team that a year ago was in full rebuild mode. Everyone was talking about them, acquiring young talent and draft picks and trying to, rebuild and become a contender again. And all of that changed on July 1 when they signed Artemi Panarin out of Columbus for over $11.5 million per year. And all of a sudden, the New York Rangers went from rebuilding team to team with expectations, and that some people expect to be a playoff team this season, despite the fact that, they're relying heavily on young players. They've got, a lot of players in the lineup who don't have a ton of NHL experience, and were either in their first year last year or in their first year this year. And the thing with the New York Rangers is there are a lot of unknowns headed into this season. This is a team that is so heavily relying on guys that we just don't know if they can produce at that level. Can Pavel Buchnevich be a first-line NHL player? Can Filip Chytil be a second-line NHL center at just 20 years old? What is Kaapo Kakko going to look like as a rookie in his first season? Another young rookie coming in, Vitaly Kravtsov. I don't know. I'm definitely butchering that name, but he's 19. He's going to probably play a significant role on this team. Adam Fox on the back end coming out of Harvard. Looks like he's going to make the NHL team as a right-shot defenseman. What does he, there's just so much that we don't know. And I feel like the expectations are too high headed into this season. This team got Panarin, and everyone was like, okay, they're a playoff team now. One player doesn't make you a playoff team. God, look at the Edmonton Oilers. They have the best player in the league in Connor McDavid. One player doesn't make you a playoff team. Two players doesn't make you a playoff team. So much more goes into it than just having a high-end piece of talent like that. You have to have a good team around them. You have to have depth. You have to have solid defense and goaltending, goaltending should not be an issue for this team. But anyway, let's look at the lineup here and just go through the line combinations, or the projected line combinations, and see what we've got. For line combos, I use a mixture of cap-friendly depth charts and daily face-off just to kind of piece them together, and I base it largely off of those. If there's a couple things here or there I might change if I want to, but for the most part it's based off that. So, top line, Artemi Panarin, obviously the huge free agent signing, playing with Mika Zibanejad, and Pavel Buchnevich appears to be the top line right wing, at least for now. I mean, Zibanejad had a huge season last year, 73 points, has looked really, really good since coming up to the Rangers. Panarin, obviously, 87 points last year. Huge addition, huge offensive guy, still only 27 years old. And then Buchnevich now at 24 is a guy that you're looking at to really maybe take that next step. He had 21 goals last season. You'd like to see him, at least, especially playing with Panarin and Zibanejad, you'd like to see him probably become a 30-goal guy. But again, Buchnevich is one of those question marks on this team. You're going to get good production out of Panarin. You're going to get good production out of Zibanejad. He's been phenomenal since coming to the Rangers. Buchnevich, though, is a question mark. He had 21 goals and 38 points last year. Solid goal-scoring season. At least he scored 20. But can he be a first-line goal scorer? That's going to be a question. Second line, Chris Kreider. on the left side. And now with the addition of Panarin, that drops Kreider down to the second line, which I think is a really good thing for the Rangers and for Kreider, because he can be a 30-goal guy, he can be a 50-point guy, and now you have that on the second line rather than on the first, and that's adding to your scoring depth for sure, having Kreider down on that second line. Philip Chytil probably going to play in the middle on that second line. Again, can he be a second-line center? Is he ready to be a top 6 NHL player? Last year, he played 75 games. He had 23 points. He certainly is a great skater. He's shown flashes of incredible talent, but he hasn't done it consistently at the NHL level. He had 23 points last year. Now, can he be a top 6 center and have 50 points this year? That's, can he double his point production? That's going to be a question. And then Kaapo Kakko on the right side. He's a rookie. Yes, he's incredibly talented. He looks very good. He was the 2nd overall pick in the draft. But he's a rookie, no NHL experience. Is he ready to be a top 6 player? And at 18 years old in his first NHL season, they're going to be relying heavily on him for depth, for offense and for scoring. Third line, Vlad Namestnikov, who really hasn't panned out, I don't think, since coming over from the Lightning. He had one really good year with the Lightning, only 31 points last year. Again, he's a depth guy, solid third-line secondary scorer, but, you're not getting a ton of production out of him. Lias Andersson, Lias Andersson's only 20 years old. He played 42 NHL games last year. He only had 6 points. He was a guy that they were kind of expecting to take that next step and show that he's NHL ready. He didn't look NHL ready last year. 6 points in half a season, that's not going to cut it. They need him to take the next step forward. And then Vitaly Kravtsov, who I don't know a ton about, but it looks like he's going to easily make this roster as a right winger. And he's only 19, entering his first NHL season. Again, huge question mark. That's the thing with this team, is it's almost across the board a question mark. They do have Brendan Lemieux coming back with Brett Howden in the middle and Ryan Strome on their 4th line, and that honestly is not a bad 4th line. Lemieux gives you really good toughness. He'll fight anybody. He also had 12 goals last year, so he can give you secondary scoring as well. Howden, pretty solid 4th line center, and then Ryan Strome is a guy who can play the center or the wing, and he can kind of move up and down your lineup. He's had 19 goals last year. He played primarily, I think, like a 3rd-line role last year. But with these rookies coming in, it's kind of knocked him down the depth chart a little bit. He's a guy you could move up to as high as your 2nd line, or he's a guy that you can play on your 4th line. And with, Kakko and Kravtsov in, it's looking like he's probably going to be bumped down. But, that is a pretty solid 4th line. But again, question marks everywhere. How are these players going to perform? Defensively, Brady Shea and Jacob Trouba are obviously their 2 best defensemen by far. Trouba coming over in the trade with Winnipeg. Shea has been a Ranger now for a while, and I really like him a lot. I think he's a very, very good player. That leaves Mark Stahl and Adam Fox. I'm assuming, Adam Fox, 21 years old, coming out of Harvard, will be his rookie season. Pretty good offensive defenseman. I don't think you're going to play him on your bottom pair because he is an offensive guy. So I think that if he's, it looks like he's going to make the team and be a Ranger right out of the gate. He's probably going to play with Mark Stahl at that point. And again, Stahl, not a big point producer, defensive type defenseman, and veteran, 32 years old, been on the Rangers for years now. Really, a good veteran mentor type guy to play with Adam Fox, to, teach him the game at the NHL level in a way. And to be defensively responsible, where Adam Fox is going to go out there and look to be more of an offensive guy. And that leaves Libor Hajek and Anthony DeAngelo as your bottom pair. DeAngelo was an RFA, but he signed. So, that defense core doesn't jump out as anything spectacular. It's not a top D-core in the league, but it's pretty solid. It's definitely not the worst D-core in the league. And again, I think if you get good production out of Adam Fox, if he comes in and has a good rookie year, if Brady Shea has a good year, if Trouba is a 50-point defenseman again, then you could actually, have a pretty darn good team here with the Rangers. In goal, Henrik Lundqvist obviously returning with Alexander Georgiev backing him up. And Georgiev actually had a tremendous season last year. I really like what I saw from him in the 33 games that he played. So I think he's a very solid backup and could potentially be the starter for this team, when Lundqvist eventually retires. But Lundqvist is still the guy. Even at 37, he's King Henrik. He is going to be the main goaltender for this team. As far as extra forwards go, there are Jesper Fast. Been around a while now. Depth guy, someone who will come in on your third or fourth line and play, give you decent enough minutes there. But you're not going to get huge production out of him. Greg McKegg, likely, the extra center. So if one of these centers go down, McKegg will probably come into the lineup. And Boo Nieves played a good number of games last season at the NHL level, as well as Vinny Lettieri. And they've got some guys down in the minors that definitely could come up and play at the NHL level. Brendan Smith, likely going to be the 7th defenseman. And then Ryan Lindgren, likely going to start the year down in the AHL. But he has a lot of potential as a defensive prospect, and I think we'll see NHL time this season. He could end up being really, really good. He came over in the Rick Nash trade. He was a Boston Bruins draft pick, and he came over in that trade, and I love what I've seen from Ryan Lindgren in the minors. He brings toughness. He plays with an edge. He's really good defensively. He's not going to give you a ton of points. He's not a huge point producer, but he, as a defensive defenseman and as a pretty tough kid, I think he could bring a lot to the Rangers. If not this year, certainly in the coming years in the future. But I think we'll likely see him see NHL time this year. So again, with this team, the overall theme is question marks. There's so much about this team that we just don't know. There's not a lot of established NHL production there. They're relying heavily on very young players to get better and to improve and to produce at a higher level. And, I mean, we know Lundqvist and Georgiev is going to be a really good goaltending combo, so I'm not worried about the goaltending. The defense core could be very good if Shea, Trouba, Fox, Stahl, if they all, play, the way that they can and have solid seasons, this defense could be very good. If they don't, then we could see big-time trouble there because they don't have a ton of defensive depth. And then, up front, it's question marks all over the place, So this, there's so much talk about this team making the playoffs and the quick, 2-year rebuild and how they've completely turned everything around. We don't, this team could finish second to last in that division. I've talked a lot about the Metropolitan Division and how completely up for grabs I think it is and how difficult I think it is to predict. This team could be a playoff team. They could make it as a wild card team. I don't really see them finishing much higher than that. They could be a wild card team, or they could finish, second to last or last in that division. And just adding Panarin doesn't automatically make you a top flight team all of a sudden. One player doesn't change that much. So, it's going to completely go up to how do these young players play. Do they produce? Do they take the next step? Do they show that they can play at the NHL level and produce a lot of offense at the NHL level? If they do that, this could be a third or fourth place team easily. If they don't, if they struggle, if they're not ready yet, this could be a second to last or last place team. It's question marks across the board with the New York Rangers. So we'll have to watch this team closely, see what they look like this season. I don't think they're better than teams like Pittsburgh and Washington or even Carolina. But if these guys come in and play really, really well, then they could end up being better than them. So, again, it's going to be a wait-and-see game with the Rangers. So, with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the comment or description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.